Hello, everyone. It's another great day in paradise in the desert area today in January, and we're at about 80 degrees, which is pretty incredible. But this is Jo Rosen, president and founder of Parkinson's Resource Organization. And today, again, we have an incredible guest to interview and to give you some information. Let's say, for instance, you're a single person and you need to get to the doctor or you need to go to the hospital and you're wondering who's going to be the one who can help me get through this procedure. I don't want to be all by myself. I need somebody. My family is not around. That's one question that might come to you today. Or you're an adult, a child or a spouse, particularly an adult child living somewhere other than in the desert, or I'm sorry, not in the desert, living someplace away from your parent. And you discover that your parent is not getting good enough need and you need somebody to attend to the parent. And these are just some of the ideas that will come up today as you hear the interview that we have going with a young lady named Cindy Johnson, who has a company called Patient Advocacy Agency. I am so pleased to not only get to know her, but to be able to present her to you, our listening audience, but more importantly, the audience who needs the resources that we have in the Wellness Village. Cindy, welcome to you today. Thanks for being here. Um, is you're in God's country right now as well, meaning it's
Yes.
it's it's paradise here today.
hmm
Any thoughts that you can relate to those who might be in a snowstorm in the Midwest?
Stay safe, stay inside.
Yeah, yeah.
And you probably wish you were here. So,
So we're right in COVID-19 still. I mean, we're still very much involved in the
Mhm.
pandemic. Is the pandemic interfering with your business as an advocate?
Actually, no. In fact, I think my business has probably gone up from the start of the pandemic. Because typically family members and clients are frustrated with the healthcare system and trying to get answers and trying to get the care they want prior pandemic. Now that you have the pandemic, everything has kind of changed for them. So it's harder for them to get in to see doctors. It's harder to have procedures done. When you come into certain doctors' offices or hospitals, family members now aren't allowed in. So they feel like there's absolutely very little transparency at all, especially if you're a loved one that's now having to sit at the curb, basically at the hospital and wait or not be included in doctor's appointments. So we've gotten a lot more calls because we kind of know how to work around that. Not that I can get you into the hospital, but there are communications that we can set up so that you feel like you can still maintain contact with your loved one, whether they're in the hospital or whether they're in a surgery center, or getting exceptions made so that you may attend doctor's appointments for them. So I've seen an increase, in business. I think obviously it has affected our business in the same respect, is that no, we can't be at bedside anymore. We're not able to go into the surgery center and sit there during the pre-op phase and then during recovery like we used to be able to do. So it has limited that personal contact in that respect. But as far as making sure that our clients are still getting the care they need and the family members still feel like they're included and involved, and communications is flowing between provider and client, we're still able to help out.
I'm so glad to hear that because so I happen to be a single person and am very much involved with patient advocates, and I every once in a while need one for myself. And
Mhm.
so and when I needed one, I needed them to come into the operating room. I needed them to be there pre-surgery and post-surgery so that I felt like I was not only comfortable, yeah, comfortable was part of it, but
Mhm.
the right instructions were being given and that somebody was really paying attention and looking out for me. So having said that, one of the things you may or may not know is that Parkinson's disease by itself is many times misdiagnosed.
Mhm.
And so our constituents get confused over their diagnosis or where to go once they have the diagnosis and who should they be seeing. So how do you help there when somebody is initially diagnosed with a chronic illness like Parkinson's, what would your next step be if they came to talk to you?
Well, the next step for us would obviously be to sit down and go over every doctor that they ever went to, help them to gather their medical history, make sure that they have all the facts. And I like to set up a binder for my clients so that they have that with them. I mean, we live in a world where everything is done through my chart or electronic technology, but unfortunately that doesn't always follow us to the doctor's office. And so that's one of the things that I like to make sure is that, first of all, we got to take step one, let's get every record organized. One, I also want to make sure that they understand the diagnosis the doctor gave them. Do they understand the treatments? And do they have any questions for that particular physician? If they're
And I'm thinking that you probably come in to play here where they only get 10 minutes or 15 minutes with the doctor. And that's oftentimes not enough time to get an answer to a medical question. So I'm thinking that beforehand, that you could help guide them into what questions to ask and answers to get back.
Yeah, absolutely. The more prepared you are for your doctor's appointments, the higher chance of success, or you're going to get the result you want from that appointment. It's no different than going into a business meeting. You don't go in with a blank notepad and not understanding the purpose of the meeting and what you hope to obtain out of that meeting. So I try to educate my clients in the same way. Before we go into the doctor's office, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about what are your goals and objectives? What are your top 3 concerns? What questions do you want answered? Is there something about the treatment that he's prescribed that is not working for you and you don't like anymore? And you want to see if there's an alternative. So we start off with that. And then when you go into the doctor's office, and I even tell them, sometimes you have to practice your story a little bit because you got to make sure, again, like you said, you have about 10 minutes, that you're going to get the message to him that you want him to have and not get sidetracked, because doctors will go down rabbit paths, you know what I mean? And then we don't accomplish. So one, have a written plan, practice what you're going to say to your physician. And then once you're in there, make sure we stick to that. And advocates, when we sit by their side, that's one of the things that we do, because it's stressful. You've been given a new diagnosis. You may not be feeling well. The medications or treatments they're prescribing are causing side effects. So it helps to have somebody there that can help everybody stay focused, stay on point, ask questions, and then take notes during the doctor's office to make sure that we heard everything. I know they do give you a discharge summary, but you jotting down notes and keeping track of what they've said so that when you leave, then you can kind of decompress and go back and go, okay, did I understand this correctly? Do I have more questions? Do we need another appointment? Can we do this through telehealth and get some of these unresolved questions answered post visit?
Yes, I think that, it also critically important. So if you're not there, would you suggest that they record, audio record, if not video record their appointments? And do they have permission to do that?
They can ask. Most doctors don't say no. There is a device called MedRecorder, and that allows you to record your medical appointments when you're there. If it's a facility, like right now, City of Hope is still not allowing, family members to even go to the appointments with the patients. So I always encourage my patients, if somebody drove you there, have them on speakerphone. Say to the doctor, my husband's sitting in the car, or my advocate's waiting for me. I've been on speakerphone with the spouse and the patient at the same time. And that way we can always make sure we're staying on point and getting questions answered. So that is absolutely something that they can ask for.
Okay, so the next thing that comes out of generally an office visit is the doctor wants to prescribe a medication, either a new medication, upping the old medication, whatever it is. How involved do you get in helping the patient learn what the medication is? I have my own standards, and my own standard is if I don't like the top side effects of a medication that's being prescribed to me, chances are I won't take it. But I will ask if there's something else that doesn't have those side effects. How involved do you as a patient advocate get when there's a prescription involved?
So when the doctor prescribes something, I always make sure that the patient does ask, what are the side effects? Make sure that the doctor knows every single medication that you are taking. That's another problem we have, is people take supplements and don't realize that they can have an adverse effect with a newly prescribed medication. And they're not always sharing that with the doctor. So that's another important thing I get my clients to do, is no, you need to share everything you're taking over the counter. It's prescribed from another physician. And I always tell them, if there's something about that medication and its side effects that you are uncomfortable with, then absolutely say to the doctor, is there another alternative? What happens if I don't take this medication? Is there a different medication you can prescribe? Is there something else that we can do? Because I'm very uncomfortable with the listed side effects. It's just about asking the doctor. And when you talk to a lot of doctors, a lot of them will say most patients never ask. They don't ask the questions. But you know what? When you do ask them, it helps the doctor, because then he thinks, oh, well, this is what I always prescribe, but maybe there is another better alternative. And it kind of forces them to kind of look a little deeper and to consider the patient in front of them.
We advocate this in our support group meetings, that everybody is really in charge of their own, they're the master of their temple. And this being their temple, they're the master of it. So they need to really be out there and be assertive in getting the information that is best for them, and
Right.
and also understand and know what's happening with their body and for their body and to their body. Having said that, I also think that there's probably another area here that you might be a little savvy on, and that is whether or not someone has insurance that covers, or what to do. Give me a little insight as what does a patient advocate do about insurance issues?
So what patient advocates can help with insurance issues is, one, we can help advise you on what insurance, especially with Medicare, if you are going to have a supplemental or you're going to have an HMO, which is considered the Advantage programs. I think it's really important. We just came through open enrollment, that everybody that they understand the difference between the two. Once you have your insurance, it's important that you know what providers are within that scope of that insurance that's covered. People get shocked when they realize, oh, I have this great plan, but there's only one oncologist in my network, or there's only one doctor that maybe specializes in Parkinson's in my network. So those are all considerations that when you have a certain chronic illness that you have to take into account for. I also appeal claims. So if an insurance company initially denies it, we go back and we appeal, present information, ask for peer-to-peer reviews, which is a doctor-to-doctor review. So your doctor going with the medical director of the insurance company. We also help with medical bills too, because medical bills, I think 80% have a mistake in them. So I always encourage people, don't pay it because they send it to you and think it's accurate, and you need to go through it. And we can also help negotiate bills from hospitals, because a lot of times the hospitals are charging more than they should, or more than the average for a certain geographical area. And we have access to that information and then can get them to negotiate the cost down.
So I mean, right now, just in this short little amount of time, we know that you can prepare somebody to go for a visit to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Work with them if they've already gone to the doctor, and help them concrete what their next step should be.
Mm-hmm.
You've already talked about medications and how you can advocate and help them understand what the medication is, what it might be able to do or should do, why it was prescribed, and listen to them as to how it's affecting their bodies and minds, etc. We also talked then about insurance, which is super helpful to so ever many people.
Mm-hmm.
What else does a patient advocate do, or what else do you do as a patient advocate?
Well, one of the things that I also do is do a lot of research. And research, if you're not happy with one doctor, let's research and get you a second opinion. And what is that second opinion going to look like? And what do you want from a second opinion? Advice, I always tell people, don't get a second opinion within the same city that you're currently seeing somebody in, because they're all peers, they all know each other, or within the same network. So there's ways to get you a second opinion, that's going to give you some benefit. And it's interesting because I think it was Mayo Clinic, one of the major medical institutions, did a study, and they found that 20% of the people that came to them for second opinions had been misdiagnosed by their primary care doctor.
Well, and
it does happen all the time. It does happen more than it should, but it does happen. And that's why we have to be, diligent on, like you were saying, know your body. This is your temple. Nobody knows your body, your signs, your symptoms better than you do. And so it's important to be able to get to the right doctor and convey that. And sometimes just a second set of eyes, a fresh outlook on you can be dramatically help your situation and the treatments that they're going to prescribe.
Absolutely. Okay. So, and so having said that, lost my train of thought there for a moment, but,
And
yes.
we
Okay.
also help with senior placement. If mom and dad look like they need to, they're no longer can live at home, and you don't have the means to provide in-home care, we can help with getting them into an assisted living or senior independent or a skilled nursing facility. So we do all that. We coordinate home care if it needs to be coordinated and they want to age in place, then that's something we can help with. And I work with the family. So if they want their adult children involved, then we set up communication and how they want to be communicated with, and and what communication they want to have between family members, so that everybody feels like that they're in the loop, that they all have a clear understanding of what's going on with their healthcare and what is the next best step. What we do is we just try to empower our clients to make informed decisions about their healthcare and where they and what they want to do.
I think that's so neat. In addition to that, we have a tremendous number of adult children who are always interested in and concerned about their parent, and they don't live in the same city. And we know that there's a big role for you there. There are other professionals that can come into play as well. In the Wellness Village, just so our listeners know, we have many of the professionals that Cindy might refer to, even in some of the findings that she needs to do for the family. You can find them on your own naturally, but you know what? The benefit the reduction of stress that happens when you have a patient advocate is just incredible. Is there a fee for a patient advocacy?
Yes. So I do give a 1 hour free initial consultation, because I think it's really important that the person who wants to hire me, we get to know each other and they feel comfortable and they feel like that I'm somebody that can work for them, work with them, and advocate on their behalf. Same way with the family. I want to make sure everybody is comfortable. I'm very transparent. Yeah, but there is a fee. And so that is negotiated when somebody decides that, yes, they want to come into contract with me. And then we work on the scope of work that they want me to do. And with healthcare, as you know, health is fluid and it changes. So that scope of work may change over time as we move through. And one of my passions too is to make sure that I can educate everybody on how to advocate for themselves too, and how to advocate for a loved one.
Wonderful.
It's so important.
And the other thing I'm thinking, but I don't know because I'm not a tax person, but I'm thinking that this might be considered a medical expenses if that's, because it's around medical help for them. So I'm thinking that could be added as a tax deduction on their tax return if they do that kind of thing. Is there anything else? So we don't run totally out of time. Is there anything else that you would like to add that I may not have asked you? I mean, we could be talking all day, but we don't have that much time for video.
Right.
What else might you like to say to the listeners about you and what you do and what they should, why should they reach you?
Well, I just think when somebody gets sick and you've been given a diagnosis and you're very unsure and you have a lot of stress, patients really need somebody that can help them walk through this journey, and somebody that understands the healthcare system, knows the ins and outs. I like to say that advocates, because I was a nurse, I was an oncology nurse, I know how to get through the healthcare system, but I also know when you can kind of, so to speak, color out the lines in order to get the results for my clients. And yes, spouses, partners, sons and daughters can all be great advocates, but there are times when you kind of just need your spouse to be your spouse, your daughter to be your daughter, your partner to be your partner, and you need the support from them on that end, where an advocate is going to come in and kind of just take care of all the other details. And try to relieve some of the stress and anxiety that goes along with those, to make sure that you're getting the care that you deserve and that you want.
I love the idea that you're with us in the Wellness Village, and that we can present you to our world of people in the Parkinson's community that need or want or certainly could use your services. So I'm grateful that we had the opportunity today to tell them just a little bit more about what a patient advocate is. So this is Cindy Johnson with Patient Advocacy Agency. I think I read that right. Patient Advocate Agency. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And you can see right beneath me and beneath Cindy that we have the URL to the Wellness Village and Cindy's information on how to get there. So please feel free to do that. And she will also be at our village meetings in the future. So pay attention to where she's going to be doing a presentation where you can ask your own questions. And again, she will also be putting articles in the newsletters that will be educational about why somebody would want to hire a patient advocate, et cetera. So watch for articles in the newsletter, for her speaking engagement at the village meetings, and pay attention to what we've just recorded. And when you have questions, get back to us and we'll get you directly in touch with Cindy, or go to her Wellness Village page and you can pass through to her that way. Thank you so much, Cindy. What
Thank
a
you.
great day to have this kind of information coming to us at a time, an unprecedented time in the world.
Yes.
It's nice to know that you're there. Thank you so much. We
Thank you
appreciate you.
very much for having me. I appreciate it.